Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody to another Tuesday night in the Spotlight session. Tonight joining us, we have Elizabeth Moore, and Elizabeth is here to talk to us about reclaiming your life while making an impact. While Elizabeth's journey hasn't always been easy, she has chosen the road to healing and now offers it in so many ways to others. Her enthusiasm for self-learning and healing highlights this. Elizabeth is the owner of the Purple Door in Cambridge, where she has built a spiritual network that creates love, support, healing, and respect between others and opens the door to teaching and learning on the spiritual path. Elizabeth loves learning new healing modalities and helping others to find their own individual path to healing. She recognizes that it's not a one-size-fits-all and does what she can to help find the right path for her clients and customers. Elizabeth loves to help people succeed by supporting store artists, healers, teachers, authors, etc., as well as through healing and coaching through her personal and business practice. Welcome, Elizabeth, and thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit, when you gave me the title of Reclaim Your Life, or sorry, rebuild your life while making an impact. We can't get that title right tonight.
We just can't not do that.
Where did that start from? What has been your journey that helped you to rebuild your life so that you could make an impact?
So I've always been on this kind of path. I've always considered myself just a witch, though. I shouldn't say just a witch. I don't like that, but I've always been a witch. But there was something, I was part of an unintentional witch hunt in 2015. And I can smile about it now and look back and be like, oh my God. But I mean, I had death threats. It was like an 8-month journey of absolute hell where I lost my job. I lost my house. We sold the house to move to a safer place for me. I lost my marriage. I lost who I was. There were so many losses and so many life-changing, altering things. And in the beginning-ish, I had this choice to make where I could actually allow this to make me a hateful, bitter, horrible person and become like them and play their games like they were playing. Or I could actually take the high road and just be myself and save myself and my kids. Because at the end of the day, that was the choice I had to make. And I've never regretted making this choice. There was a lot of times in the early days where I was like, well, if I didn't, and all of the things that I, envisioned my nasty self doing. But at the end of the day, that just wasn't who I was. It wasn't who I wanted to be. And that's not where I wanted to end up. So I was very aware of who I was making the decisions for, because I was showing my kids how we deal with those negative people. And that was the whole thing. So for me, it was really good versus bad. And which road did I want to take? So, yeah.
That's awesome.
And the process of rebuilding.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent. And what did you find on your own path to healing and moving through that and stuff? What was most helpful for you in rebuilding? And like, when we say rebuilding, you went from like not doing what you're doing now. I mean, a self-proclaimed witch,
yeah.
But like now you own the Purple Door and you're a successful entrepreneur with all of these ideas and events and everything where you're bringing people together and you're helping to share wisdom and all of that. So what steps did you personally have to take to get to the point where you are now?
So, yeah, the witch part of me was very private. It was mine. It was my journey. I didn't share that with anybody. So that was the ironic point when somebody who was kind of on the same side as me actually said, well, this is a witch hunt. Like I kept thinking, if I could just get everybody to understand or see what was going on and see that it was just these bitter people making these accusations and lies up, they would understand. And when he said that it was a witch hunt, and it just kind of went, they're never going to understand because they don't want to. So for me, then it was like, okay, what choices do I make? What can I do? And I tried, I went to therapy. The therapist said, you should really have a camera crew following you around because your life is a reality show. And I walked out of that feeling worse than I did going in. So I was like, okay, that's not going to help me, because I feel like had I gone down that road more, I might have become a little bit more bitter or jaded. And it just wasn't for me. So I was reaching out to everybody I could think, like anybody basically. And there were so many people that were kind of like, we don't want to get entangled in this, deal with it on your own. So the spiritual community was kind of not the last straw, because that sounds awful, but it was where I felt safe and felt at home and felt heard. Yeah. And it was the first life coaching class that I did. And it was the weirdest thing. It popped up on my Facebook one day and I looked at it and went, oh, I could do that. Not knowing anything about it or anything like that. I signed up before I changed my mind, and I went and did it.
That's awesome.
And I have to say, it's one of those things where pulling into the driveway, I was like, this is a bad idea. What am I even doing here? Why am I here? My life is in ruins. Why am I doing this? And right up into the class, and probably I would say the first day and a half, it took me to actually feel like, okay, this is the right thing. And then to actually open up and let the healing come in, because I had a wall up. I didn't want to. I was trying to prove my higher self wrong. I knew my higher self.
Absolutely. So with the life coaching class that you took then, was that kind of, had you always wanted to open a space like the Purple Door, or was it through the life coaching class that you decided that that's an avenue that you wanted to take?
When I was probably partway through a little bit, I had this dream, and I remember there being a heart on it. And I woke up the next morning, out of my mouth came, "Welcome to the Purple Door. Can I help you?" And it was the weirdest thing, because I had no idea what it was. And I was like, where did that even come from? And I wrote it down, because I was like, I don't even understand this. And then I would say just after I finished life coaching, that first session, I had this vision where this is what I wanted to do, but I needed to offer everything. So that's kind of where it came about. And then over the years, it just kind of fell into place even more. And it was such a strange, I have to say, everything has just fallen into place perfectly at the perfect time, in the perfect spot. Yeah. And if I have to fight for it, then I should know that it's the wrong thing. Don't always, but I should.
Part of the human experience, right? And for anybody who might not know, because I understand what this means now, but can you explain the history of the Purple Door and what its meaning is?
Yeah, so the Purple Door is typically known as the witch's door. And the people in the village would go to the witch for healing, because she was the first healer before anybody else was doing it. It was the witches of the village that were healers. And the doors were painted purple. I don't know if they really were, but that's the story, and I rather like it.
No, I absolutely love it too. I don't know how many times I've told this story when talking to people about the Purple Door and what the meaning of the Purple Door is, because to me, it's just so significant, because any stranger could come into a town and they would know where they could go to find healing, which I just think is beautiful.
It is. And it's funny, because in every house we've lived in, that I've lived in anyways, I've always painted the front door or the back door. One of them had to be purple. So that was before I even knew about the witch's Purple Door.
Isn't that so amazing that sometimes your intuition can tell you something and you have no idea that you're even working from an intuition? You're just like, I'm just doing this.
Yeah. There's so many things that have come since then, just like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Which is fantastic.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you're talking about rebuilding your life right now, and I feel like you already have rebuilt your life. Now let's talk about you creating an impact. So how are you feeling like you're making an impact in the world through the work that you're doing?
Mm-hmm. So I would say it's partially rebuilt.
Okay.
We're in a safe place. We are in a safe place. We're actually doing really well. Now it's just, and it's interesting because everything I've been thinking of lately has been, where can I take Purple Door? What can I do with it? And I mean, certainly the virus and shutting down has stopped our plans for a lot of this year. I'm hoping that we can salvage some, but for a lot. So we've actually moved all of our healings online. And the distance healings, they're just so incredible. Like, it takes it to a whole other level. And it's so amazing how we can do that. So the plan that I'm making for the future are about expansion and what can we do to help more people? Because really and truly, when I was in that spot, I didn't have anybody. And the people that I was able to reach out to didn't respond the way I needed. So, I mean, it worked out perfectly and it's all great, but I really don't want anybody else to go through the pain and hardship that I did. It was really hard. So that's one of Purple Door's biggest goals, is to try and be there for everybody.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So what can people expect when they go into the Purple Door? I mean, I realize right now it's like, it's very online and it's not going in. But what kind of services do you guys offer? What kind of products do you guys offer? What's available for people to be able to reconnect themselves?
So I always say it's a little bit of everything for your mind, body, spirit, and soul, because you're all of those things together. And sometimes people come in and it's so nice watching the progression of when they come in and then they come back and then they come back and what changes about them and how much more they open up. But we have a lot of nonfiction books and a lot of fiction books because that's part of your growth. And I don't think we appreciate books enough as a healing tool. Whether it is simply you want to learn more about sharks or you want to lose yourself in mystery and just read, it's part of the healing process. So we expanded. When I first opened, I think I had maybe 10 or 12 decks. Now we have so many more decks, and I always look for the interesting ones that you're not going to maybe find everywhere. The artisans are incredible. I'm so happy to help and support local artisans, and they're amazing. So it's all of those things, but having everybody who works in the space do classes. So it just opens that up. Yeah. I love that space. It's so fabulous.
Absolutely. And I know when I first walked in, it was like, your soul just feels like, yay, I found a new home.
Right?
Yeah.
And the people that
Elizabeth,
walk in the door and say that, it's
yes.
just, it's so affirming. But it's funny because I have the video posted of walking through the door and just having the quick glance around. It took me probably a dozen takes to do that because everybody kept honking their horn when I was outside and then trying to follow me in the store and talking to me. And it was like, no, we're just going to do this in silence because stop talking to me. But it's amazing how it draws people in. And I always say it's changed from when I opened it because it's taken on its own identity now. And it's so amazing to me, the people that it draws in on its own. These are people that want to do classes or want to do energy healing and want to teach and want to be there. And I have no idea who they are or how they found us. And neither did they most times. They're like, just walking by and thought I'd come in.
It's kind of like your life coaching course. When it showed up, it was like, oh,
yes.
Okay, this is what I'm doing next. I absolutely love when that happens. So what kind of healers do you guys have in this space right now?
So right now we have a whole lot of everything. There's Reiki. Obviously we can't do reflexology right now because that is in person. Bowen therapy, life coaching, Ohana generational healing, magnified healing, life coaching. Yeah, like there's just, everybody has the list.
Awesome. And when someone's coming into your space, or really any space, and
Mhm.
perhaps they're like a brand newbie to absolutely everything, what kind of guidance do you give them on finding what's going to work for them or help them shift their lives in the way that they're wanting to?
It's a gut feeling, and that's what I always tell people. It's the same as if you're picking out a tarot deck. It's the one that you just can't stop looking at, or the one that you go home and Google to see the images online, the one you pick up and you hold on to. So if you're coming in and you see the things that we're doing energy healing wise, and one of them just grasps your interest, that's always a good one to try. That's always a good avenue to go down, and just try. You can't, I mean, try everything that you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally
Yeah.
agree. You've seen me with oracle decks and tarot decks. This one's talking, and this one's talking, and this one, and this one, and this one. So.
And at different times and for different reasons. You need to have a few.
Exactly. So for yourself and your own healing journey, how has the Purple Door helped you to expand?
It has opened my eyes, quite honestly, to so many different healing modalities, but also just to be able to understand energy a little bit better, and why sometimes you meet somebody and just know, you feel like you've known them forever.
Yeah.
And then other times you have just look at somebody and it's like, whoa, I so hate you. So it's one of those things where it's opened my eyes that way, but it's also the people. I've met so many amazing people and gone in so many different directions that I probably wouldn't have before, because I didn't know. And just being able to talk to them and hear about what they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
I mean, even just you and me, right? When I was going through what I was going through, I don't even know how I saw you, but I saw your abundance spray. And I bought some, and it was just such a weird thing to a couple years later be like, oh, you're that Catherine.
Well, and I know I've found that in my own personal business, is that a lot of people don't know how they find me.
Yep.
A lot of people have no idea. It just shows up on Facebook one day,
Yes.
or they've Googled something, or whatever the case might be. And it always works out perfectly. And I always feel like the universe just supports us.
Yes.
In whatever way they need to support us. And they'll find us the clients, or they'll help the clients to find us, because it's almost like they know already who needs to connect and who needs to intermingle. So like you were saying before, if it's something you need to fight for, it's just not, it's not worth it, you know? And it's when things are going so effortlessly, it's like you're just in this flow of what needs to be.
That's one of the bigger things, right? Is trusting and letting it be. And I struggle a lot with that one. I struggle a lot with that one, because it's just not, it's not the life story I told myself. So I have to let go of that. And I catch myself, or somebody else in my circle that I absolutely love and thank for will catch it with me and be like, think we need a session. I'll be like, great. But honestly, I love the healing. It's such, there's no words for it. Like everybody thinks that it should be easy peasy and just happy face and all of those things. And it is one of the most ugliest things that you can possibly go through, and still feel good and still be like, okay, what's the next question?
It's so true. Because we go through like the, oh, I've had the greatest breakthrough ever, and I sobbed my eyes out, and I went back to this experience and this experience and cried it all out, and it was the most magnificent thing ever. Like
it is. Yeah,
it really is.
When you find the right person to work with, where your energy meshes and healing actually happens. Like that's the thing with COVID, that's what I miss the most. Zoom is great, and there are some shifts on Zoom, but you know, when you're sitting with somebody and you're having a conversation and it's just like, oh, and it just shifted.
Yeah.
And you can feel it and you know it, and you just walk away going, wow, that just happened. I miss that so much.
Yes. I was just saying this morning, one of the things I've missed the most since COVID is not having the hands-on energy treatments.
Yes.
Like I can get distance and I love it, but
Yeah,
oh
it's
my
a
goodness,
difference,
just to have
right?
someone's hands on me
Yes. Yep.
and
To
to feel
feel
the
the
energy.
energy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know.
I totally get that. So just going back to the whole let it go and let it be and not having the effort, do you have any guidance for anybody who might be struggling with that? Because I know right now there's a lot of people struggling with, I mean, we've all lost control of a
Yep.
lot of things in our lives. And for some of us, we're still trying to hold on to what those last little pieces are that we can salvage. So
Yes.
what guidance would you give to people on letting go or letting things be?
Good question. I think for me, it's a very conscious effort to be, okay, I see that. Why am I holding on so tightly? Because there's always a why. And then what would happen if I let go? Or what if I let go?
Mm.
And then refocusing. And for me, refocusing my attention has been fantastic, because if I sit and think about it, it's like when you make a wish. And if you sit and think and think and think, you're going to put so much worry and strain and stress, chances are it's not going to happen. But if you just let go for a little bit and see, what if I let go, what will fill that space? Because it's that empty void that needs to get filled.
Yeah.
And that's how it's going to happen. And for me, that is the hardest part. It's the trust and the faith, right? When you're like, okay, but I've been through this, why would I let go? But the thing is that when you're through this, it brings you this. And you've got to stop and see all of the things that you have. That's part of the refocusing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it, like the whole idea of refocusing. So just becoming aware
Yes.
of, oh, these are the thoughts that I'm having, or these are the fears that are coming up, or this is the emotion that I'm connected to.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to shift focus. I think that's such an important thing, because sometimes we can get so caught up in what this has been telling us. And it can be hard at times, and Lord knows I've gone through it so many times, to actually realize, oh, this is a pattern that we're stuck in, and we do need to shift focus. We do need to look at what it is that is going to align with us in a greater way.
Well, and it's part of that mindfulness, right? Like everybody, I know people are tired of hearing about mindfulness, but really at its base essence, mindfulness is knowing why you do what you do. So knowing why you hold on tight is helping you let go. And being mindful of why you're making the decisions you're making is so important. And it's not, like it's being in the moment and being in now, because the past is done. The future hasn't happened. Whatever you're holding on to might not bring the results that you really want. You're my dog trying to break into the room. I'm sorry.
No worries.
He's developed this severe attachment problem during this time off.
He's showing us what it's like to not let go.
Right?
Because sometimes we're the dog on the other side of the door that's just like, let me in, please.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a huge part of getting to know yourself and getting to know who you are and why you're making the decisions you're making right now, and how they could impact your future.
Awesome. Now, I know you've got a couple of workshops coming up at the Purple Door as an online event. So there's the Words Are Magic, and there's also the Love Yourself First workshop coming up. So can you talk to us a little bit about what the Words Are Magic is about? That one's happening June 4th, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I scheduled it. I think so.
I just seen it today.
So the Words Are Magic. It came about, well, you and I talked about quite a bit about language and that kind of thing, but I think it was like November, December of last year. And everybody that I was talking to, they kept saying things like, oh, I'm so sick, and that's so sick. And then they'd get sick. And I was like, okay, we really need to watch the words we use. And if you're going to say things like that, start saying, well, I'm a millionaire. Because when you say I'm so sick, that's what you're bringing up, right? Like that's what you're bringing. Your words are your spells. When you say things like that, you are creating your reality. And if we're going to do that, be aware of what we're doing. And I don't think we started recording yet, but earlier on I said I was just a witch, and I hate that word just. And it was so much a huge part of my vocabulary, because when you're a stay-at-home mom, you're just a stay-at-home mom, right? So it wasn't until later when I was reading, and I can't remember what book it was, but she was like, stop saying just. Stop putting that in front of you, because whatever it is you do it like a beast of a woman. You don't do it like just a woman. You are a beast. And it was so true and so obvious, but it was that whole thing of how subtly do we put ourselves down without thinking about it? Like how many times as a homeschooling mom, like I've homeschooled my kids the entire time. My youngest is 17 now, and I'm like, oh, I'm almost done. And it's so fantastic, but I loved every minute of it. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's that whole thing where I would constantly run into people when we were out and about, and they'd be like, oh, I could never do that. And I'm like, oh, if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's an insult. That's putting yourself down, because no, you can do it. Not everybody could do it. So by using those kind of that kind of language, we're really doing ourselves harm, because we're constantly telling ourselves this and lowering ourselves down instead of lifting ourselves up and seeing all of the amazing things that we do, because we do a lot of amazing things that don't even get noticed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, the dishes, we do the damn dishes. We cook.
I do the damn dishes.
Oh my God. And laundry never ends. But I mean, I'm lucky. I shouldn't complain. I shouldn't say that, because my kids are older, so they do help out, and it's fantastic. But it's one of those things where that seems to be like, when women get together, that's what we talk about. You know, we complain about the dishes, we complain about cooking, we complain about the laundry, all of those things. And we should be celebrating all of the amazing things that we can do.
And that's beautiful. I actually read once, when you're washing the dishes, wash the dishes with as much effort and joy as what you would if you were like, you know, on your wedding night, or if you were doing a rock concert, or whatever the case might be, because you can't find, or let me rephrase that. You can't always experience joy based on the menial tasks that need to get done. But if you bring yourself to a place of joy and you celebrate what it is that you're doing, so the ability to wash dishes, most people don't celebrate it because it's washing dishes. It's a chore, you know, but throw on some music and sing and dance while you're doing the dishes, and they get done so quick, and you're in this part of joy. Another thing is to just run your hands under the water and to feel that flow. And the way this person talked about how we can shift our energy through washing dishes or other menial chores that we have to do, I was like, that's fantastic. Now, do I always remember that?
No.
Sometimes it's just like,
got to get them done because people are going to want them. Yeah. But I mean, it's just those little things like that you're adding to your life, and you're not focusing on the negative parts of it. And it really, it can change your day altogether.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that actually, I feel like the Words Are Magic workshop actually leads into the Love Yourself workshop. I could be wrong on that, but just as you were talking about lifting yourself up, instead of saying, I'm just you're speaking lovingly to yourself. So can you tell us a bit about the Love Yourself workshop?
Yeah, so that one, I can't remember when I first did it. It's been a while. And it was interesting because I meant to do the Love Yourself workshop for a year and then work into another workshop, like the second level of it. And it amazes me how much I use the Love Yourself workshop. And I do it a lot with the private coaching, because again, when you're in a group, you don't always feel like sharing, right? Like, especially with this, because it touches on what you need to let go, what you're dragging with you, what is your shadow, what are you working on, right? Your deep, dark secrets sometimes. And a lot of people aren't comfortable sharing. And I understand, because quite honestly, when I started out with this, neither was I. Now I overshare, I think. But it's one of those things where I use myself as an example, and I'll be like, oh my God, last week. But the Love Yourself First workshop is all about learning what you do that isn't serving you and isn't serving your best interest and helping you to create the life you want. Because at the end of the day, we don't value ourselves enough. We don't value ourselves hardly at all. And it amazes me how, depending on the group I have, how the workshop will change. And sometimes it goes very much into shadow work and very much into all of this stuff that people are afraid to deal with. And sometimes it is just light and happy and it gets done. But it's one of the ones that I absolutely love. So I brought it back.
Running this workshop and in doing like just the personal coaching that you do and group coaching and whatnot, what have you ever come up with like a reason as to like why people don't value themselves or like, because it seems to be so common amongst people where they don't see their own value. And it's okay if you don't have an answer to that, because I don't even have like
but I think we're just not taught to value ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I don't know when in time we started this or if it's always been a thing where we just weren't taught to value ourselves. We aren't taught as a society truly to value individuality, because everybody should be the same as everybody else. And there was a commercial a couple of years ago, and everybody was standing in line, like I think it was for girls, maybe it was Dove to celebrate individualness, but they were standing in line and they were going in as themselves, no matter what shape, size, color, hairstyle, whatever, and coming in on the other side, the exact same model. And it didn't run for very long, but it just made such an impact where that's exactly what we do, right? It's the same as when we go through any school system or any education or anything like that, we really want everybody to be the same. It's made for one type of person to learn the best. And I knew with homeschooling with my kids, when my kids were little, I knew that I would be in the principal's office or on the phone every day. So I made the choice to keep them at home because I didn't want to squish their personalities.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're, you know, wild or crazy or whatever, but they are who they are and they have interests. And, you know, my oldest, if he knew the answer and he knew the teacher was wrong, he would actually be like, you know, I watched this, I learned this, here's where I learned it, so you can go learn it yourself. Maybe we should be putting out the right information. And there were a couple of classes that he took, like homeschool wise, that afterwards the teacher was like, you know, I really love his spunk, but I don't like being corrected. And I was like, what is that about us that we don't like being corrected? And I get it. Sometimes it's like you feel awkward or you feel unprepared or whatever, but we just have this cookie cutter ideal and everybody needs to fit into it. It's the same as high school. You were one or the other, right? You were a jock or you were popular or you weren't, or you went to the library, like all of those things. And I don't think that we value individualness. And I think that we tame ourselves to some extent so that we don't stand out. And I'm totally guilty of that. I completely understand that, because standing out isn't always a good thing. There's repercussions sometimes. Be yourself and be who you are, but we don't let that happen enough. That's my opinion. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I think it will probably hit people on different key points of where we've tamed ourselves. Like before we got on this call, I was saying, I keep thinking I'm going to shave my head. Like,
yeah.
You know? But I feel like my double chin will show off a little bit more, but who knows, you know?
You might have a really remarkable birthmark that we can't see.
That's right too. But the idea is like, the only reason I think I could shave my head now is because I really don't have anywhere to go. Do you know what I mean? And if I
Yep.
do go anywhere, it's not like anyone's really talking to me anyway. It's because it's all, you know,
Yep.
everyone's staying apart and stuff. And so it's almost like it gives you permission to do the things that you wouldn't normally give yourself permission to do. But then I
Yeah.
say, well, where do I think this permission is actually being granted or has been taken away from me in the first place, you know?
Yep.
And I just feel like this kind of rolls in with that individuality. And I feel like, especially in this whole COVID time, a lot of people are questioning, who am I now?
Yep.
Because everything that we've identified ourselves with has been taken away to some extent or another.
Mm-hmm.
And for those people who identified themselves as this business or as people
Yeah.
with these friends or people who, you know, have coffee on Friday mornings or whatever the case might be, it's all been taken away. Even like for the kids with their sports and with their activities and their
Yes.
school and all of that, it's now who are we
Mm-hmm.
with all of these other distractions.
Yeah. And you're doing it with less labels
Yes.
because you don't have the labels. They're gone. And that was, I did, I don't know who shared it. Somebody shared it. And it was one of those things, describe yourself without using labels. And I failed miserably. But I think part of me was overthinking it because I'm like, well, every word is a label. So how can I possibly describe myself without using words? And that's a huge one because I don't think that we're actually taught to get to know who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we flounder at it as adults, because we don't know where to start.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wayne Dyer had a meditation years ago, and it was called the I Am meditation. And behind it is everything that we attach to I am.
Mm-hmm.
It limits us to that thing. So if we're saying statements like I am stupid, then we become stupid. If
Yep.
we say I am freedom, then we become freedom. And I am is supposed to, I don't quite remember how it goes, but the letters for I am in the Hebrewic alphabet are attuned to God.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And so we're basically calling ourselves God every single time we say I am.
Yep.
And then we become that what we are saying. And
Yes.
so when you talk about these labels and adding these labels on, it's like, if you can drop the layers apparently, and the labels,
Yep.
who do we become? And how much freedom is in
Mm-hmm.
our lives, our energy, everything, if we just drop all of that? Because a label to me, like if I say I am a woman,
Yep.
okay, well, anything that I've decided a woman can or cannot be is now caught up in this idea that I am a woman, you
Right.
know, or I am a mother, or I am a teacher, or I am a healer, blah, blah, blah. You know, you can just add on all of these ideas of what that looks like.
Even when you say I am love, it's your perception of what love is. So yeah, that's one of the things with Love Yourself First. We're trying to open that up so that you're dropping it. You're not carrying what's not yours, but you're not carrying those preconceived notions and judgments on you, so that you are free to see that, well, I'm the kind of person that love is a cup of coffee. Like if you bring me a cup of coffee in the morning, that's an act of love, right? So it's all of those things where, what are acts of love that you do for yourself? Whether it's simply, a couple days ago before I got crazy hot, I actually sat out in the backyard and I was there for an hour and a half and I didn't do anything. Like there's grass to cut, weeds to pull. We're new to the house and all of these things that could be doing, right? And I sat there for an hour and a half. I didn't read. I didn't journal. I didn't do anything. I don't even know what I thought. I just sat and enjoyed the breeze. And that for me was an act of love.
Yeah.
So it's all those little things that we don't consider and we don't think of. And then we're like, well, that was a waste of time. But it really wasn't, because it made me feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
a friend that I met last year made a statement that he cleans his house to give a gift for his future self. And I was
I
like,
love that.
wow, So
Yeah.
my future self will appreciate this, and my future self will feel loved
Mm-hmm.
because I've already committed this act of kindness towards my future
I
self.
love that.
And it was just as you're talking about these acts of love for yourself, sometimes these things that we have to do, these things that we have to become or whatever, maybe sometimes it is an act of love, even if it's begrudging in the meantime. But
Yeah.
if for the future self, the one that doesn't have to look at the clutter all around the house, it'll be like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. Right. It's the little things, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
love that. I love that.
I know, me too. I really did
Next time
too.
I clean, I'm going to be thinking that. My
I do it
future self is
often where
going
I'm
to
like,
love this.
my future self is gonna love this.
I better wake up the next morning and think, thank you.
I've never actually had the back talk conversation to the past self to say thank you from the future self.
You know what I learned? I think this is one of the when everything was going down and I was at my absolute lowest, and I would get up every morning and there'd be a little bit of hope in my heart. And I'd be like, what the hell are you doing here? You see the situation, you know it's hopeless. You know I can't make this work. Why do I have hope in my heart? And I'd be like, today is going to be a great day. And today is going to, but every morning I would wake up and I would have hope in my heart. And I'd be like, why? Because on one hand, it would make it worse because I'd be hopeful that maybe this meant I could save this problem. I could fix the world. I could, and on the other hand, I'd be like, you're just setting yourself up for heartache. Way to go. But it was such a weird thing because when I was going down further the path and I took my first Reiki level 1 course, and then I took the level 2, and it was like, you can send hope, you can send love, you can send healing anywhere to anyone. And my first thing was to send it backwards to me. And I was like, okay, but I should have sent it backwards to me with the note that this is what it means. This is just to get you through the day.
Yeah.
Don't freak out. But it was such a, yeah. So it's just, those are acts of love. Little things like that, it's acts of self-love, self-preservation, self-hope, like having faith in yourself too, because that's a huge one. So many people are looking for the outside validation and the outside, the knight in shining armor that's going to come in and save your life and make you, happy, when it's really you. And that's an inside job. So if you're sending yourself acts of love and acts of hope, you're sending yourself your own knight in shining armor.
Yeah. I've actually, this past year, I've said that to so many clients that we have been waiting for so long for the knight in shining armor to show up. And what we failed to see is we're the ones wearing the armor in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones that are here to save ourselves.
Yeah.
And yet we look outside of ourselves so often. And so I'm going to get excited here.
I know, because you get caught up in it, right? Like you can completely get caught up in it. And I've met women and I've worked with women who've completely lost themselves in this thought that I just have to get through the day because my knight in shining armor is on the way because so-and-so told me. And so I just need to get through the day and there he is and everything is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
And the thing with life is that it's life, and the happy endings that you see in the Disney movies, well, they maybe last for 5 minutes. And then there's dishes to do and there's laundry to do and there's houses to clean and there's life to deal with. And there's emotions.
Yeah.
And we get caught up in not remembering that.
Yeah. And a lot of mainstream media, if you think of like the most popular love songs, they're about someone falling in love with you or someone no longer loving you. And the only way you're whole is if the someone is falling in love with you and you've got that love. Nobody talks about that loving relationship with yourself. No. I mean, there's a few songs that are coming
There's a few.
That talk about that self-love, that talk about owning your power and all of that. And they're my most favorite songs to listen to. But so often the music that we're listening to is all, you're not whole unless this person loves you. And it is so awesome and so magical to listen to music. And instead of thinking this is a guy singing it to the girl, what if this is yourself singing it to
To yourself.
yourself,
Yep.
or the universe is singing this song to you, and they're just loving you for who you are.
Right?
I've done it with so many songs. This is where I get excited because it's, the universe really freaking loves me. When I'm listening to love songs from the universe, I'm like,
Yeah.
feel that energy.
Well, when I was growing up, all my parents listened to was country music. And that is the saddest, awfulest, like, it's just, yeah. And it sticks in your head, right? So we really, yeah. It was interesting.
Yes. My mom listened to a lot of country and my dad listened to a lot of rock and roll. So I'm a little bit.
Oh, no, they were both country fans. They didn't discover, and still my dad isn't a rock and roll fan at all. My mom did, but not until my brother was about 16, 17. And then he kind of introduced her to it. But no, it was country all the time. And yeah, depressing songs.
And it's something that we need to be aware of, like what
It
we're
really is.
taking, whether it's music or movies or TV shows or whatever the case might be, that's all having an impact on us. So sometimes even choosing the right music to listen to is an act of self-love, or the movie that we're watching, an act of self-love.
Yeah. Well, and noticing yourself, how you feel. I mean, I still listen to the radio. I'm old fashioned that way. When different songs come on, how does that make you feel?
Old fashioned?
I don't do Spotify. I don't do the satellite radio.
Okay.
It's beyond me. I'm like, yeah, my kids introduced me to Spotify and they set up like the music channels that I would like. But quite honestly, I still just turn on the radio. It's just one of those things. And I think because when we were kids, there was always a radio on in the house. And that is a comfort in a weird way. It's, yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where feel the songs because they're talking to you. And your body is talking to you when you're saying, don't know if I like this song. And you don't need to know why. It's just not for you.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes it's like there's chords that are played and I'm like, I don't like the way that sounds. And other times it's just the lyrics that, like, ooh, you know?
I miss the old, remember the cassette tapes, right? Where it would come with the inside and all of the lyrics would be written on the inside. I miss that sometimes because when you have to Google search it, it's just not the same.
Yes. Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Elizabeth? You can put those in the chat. I know we've got a couple comments down here, so I'm just going to take a look. All right, we've got people talking about loving the 70s, knowing all of the songs. Yes, I'm kind of someone, I listen to like Pachelbel's Canon sometimes, so I'm like way back in the 1700s, I think he created that song. And then other times it's like music soundtracks from movies. Cloud Atlas is my favorite. But yeah, it's a little bit of everything.
It is,
what the words behind it. And how can I adapt that to my soul and my soul's learning? Disco my mood in no time.
It does though, doesn't it? I used to have a record. I'm that old. And I used to have a record. It was Daffy Duck Sings a Disco. And he did the YMCA song. Oh, we used to play that over and over again because it was just, it's that song. It lifts your spirits right away.
And I think it's so important for everybody to be able to have music of some sort that just lifts their soul, whether it's a Daffy Duck, that's the YMCA, or it's disco, whatever it might be for each individual person. Like, sometimes I think we get caught up thinking it needs to be a specific kind of music or a specific thing that we're listening to, and it doesn't. It's just whatever brings you that bit of joy.
Well, and I find too that depending on what's going on in your world, there's a lot of songs that are on repeat. It doesn't seem to matter where I am or how often they play it on the radio. It's there a lot. And those are the songs where it's like, okay, I need to see what this means. But it still lifts or gives a message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. All righty. So if anyone has a question for Elizabeth, you can write it down. I think this has been just such an awesome conversation, Elizabeth, and you've really touched on so many different areas of self-growth for people. And so I really appreciate
Thank
that
you.
and you sharing that with everybody. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you would like to share?
I think we just have to be nicer to ourselves, be kinder, stop beating ourselves up for little things, because we really, I mean, we were talking about that, the memories in the hair. When we beat ourselves up and when we're not kind to ourselves and when we repeat the messages, it's like we're embedding it in our hair, in our DNA, in our mind, in our subconscious. And that plays in the back of our head all the time. So whether you're actually actively thinking it or not, it's there. And when things go wrong, that's when it tends to just pop out. And there are times where I've caught myself saying what is playing in the back of my head. And it's just like, whoa, where did that come from? That's not how I think. That's not what I know. So it's one of those things where we just have to be kind to ourselves and be consciously kind to ourselves so that we are seeing all of the wonderful things that we're doing and thanking ourselves for it. Because we don't do that enough either. We need to be kind and thank ourselves for the wonderful people we are.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. This is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you everybody who's hopped onto the call. And thank you, Elizabeth, so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll see everybody again next Tuesday. In the spotlight is Jane Burning, and she's going to be on talking about the sacredness within. So I hope you guys will be able to join us, and hopefully we'll be able to go over to a Facebook Live.